Yeah, like I was saying, see, that's what's messed up about, like, capitalism. Like, it's like, oh, everyone has to do the same thing. You do this, you do that. It's like, if we all did what we're good at and nobody wanted to hoard anything, then it would be pretty balanced out. So actually, ironically, getting rid of money, the concept of money, going back to trade, right? Because, like, I'm making a video. I mean, like, to me, this is whatever, but to, like, someone else, this could be like, oh, I feel connected with someone or someone, right? So to, like, me, it's like whatever. And to me, it's like very easy to produce, but, to somebody else, it could have a very high value. And actually, that's kind of what I noticed, and that's the weird thing. The more psychology here. Like the stuff we're good at, like, like artists, for example. I've known a few. I went to an artistic high school, so I know a pretty decent amount of people who are into, like, arts. But yeah, they're doing a good job, but, like, hey, that's a cool, thing, but they don't take it, so it's like, to them, it feels like, oh, this is like, whatever, this is like normal or whatever. But, to somebody else, in that example, I think it's cool, so, like, I think it's cool enough, for example, then, and, wealthy enough, or not, I don't even want to say wealthy, but, like, have that extra, you see something you like, and you're like, this is value. And so, see, that's kind of like, that's like the financial exchange, but it doesn't have to be financial. It's only financial in this example because that's kind of what they were used to. But, like, so, you got the artist who does a good job at art, and then but, like, somebody likes it, and chances are that, they themselves probably don't suck at art, probably haven't practiced it enough yet to probably be better than themselves at it, but, like, they don't think they're good at art, so, like, because they're not good at art, they buy the art. Or, in this case, they might be a little more logistically the thinking type, so, like, they might offer some kind of, like, service or exchange. Leaky roof. Well, actually, that's actually a hardcore one, but, like, stuff that needs repairs. That's like handyman type work. So you kind of see how one exchanges for the other. And that in return to the artist, like, they're not really the handyman type person, so, like, they get value in return too. And so you got two things that just occurred without the exchange of actual cash. So that's probably what we're headed to anyways right now, just my forecast. No, that light just, like, weirded me out. It's kind of like a weird pattern. And the reeds back there. Why is the light off? And see, that's what I mean. It's like, oh, it's still on. No, I just noticed stuff like that. Call it inheritance from family, all that fun stuff. But yeah, let's go back to that economy thing. So see, it's like I've got people doing stuff back and forth without, and then yeah, like to repair the stuff, you know, you needed tools and you needed raw material, and well, you know, guess what? The person doing all that probably needs something too, who has all that stuff. So, you know, that's probably why it's going to go back to trading. Okay, mud part 2. Yeah, because like the only downside is that the videos take a long time to upload, and I mean, if I'm doing it on the phone, it doesn't upload in the background properly, so like it only uploads when you're actually on the app, which, you know, I don't do constantly. So like it uploads slowly, and there's still an upload from a few days ago. So like, you know, I'll give the upload thing a try, but it's like, because right now I'm using 120 FPS, so I like the look. And if it looks too similar to a YouTube short, then like, I just don't want like a backlog of uploads forming. So right now I'm using 5G, right? The Wi-Fi is pretty much 5G as well, so Visible. I was using Mint before. Visible worked better if hotspot a lot. So like example, actually this is a perfect example. I use my iPad like a laptop essentially, and you know, to hotspot it, and you have remote software. You're essentially, you can leave your Mac Pro or MacBook Pro at home, and you know, you've got a pretty powerful computer, and it's really light. So that's kind of what that does. I already forgot what I was talking about. Yeah, it's like when I literally walk these trails, not even trails, the sidewalk, I can actually, you know, smell the parking. It's like, where we live, it's a little elevated. Like you descend down into the roadway, and it's like you can actually smell the difference in the air. It's actually kind of gross. Like it's really gross experience. I mean, honestly, we should just have streetcars. You know, get rid of main streetcar. And we kind of already have the system, if you think about it. Like right now we're on Rancho Santa Fe Road, and it ends at San Marcos, right? And it starts at Encinitas Boulevard. So that's a pretty long stretch. It's repetitive. You know, if something's repetitive, then you don't really even need to have tires. So like, railway, you know, like if you don't have to make a turn, then, you know, a railway system just makes way more sense. That's one. That's literally just this one up here. You do Leucadia Boulevard, El Camino Real is another good one. You do those, you know, like you've already got like 75% of the city, you know, for Encinitas. So, you know, those are smart decisions. Unfortunately, we do not have smart people in government. And like I said before, Democrats are too conservative. We're gonna make our way. We're gonna pass by the goats again. Ooh, this Tesla driver right here. I'm too eager to get home. I mean, think about it. You can literally hop on a streetcar. I mean, you know, we had these everywhere back in the day. And you could totally just zone out. Like if I, in theory, were to take my idea, the streetcar idea, to get to the beach, it would literally take me like 3 different streetcars, and that would like pretty much get me, you know, practically where I need to be without much walking. So that's what we should be doing. You know, rip out the travel lanes. You know, the funny thing is that freeways are actually really hilarious in the U.S. when you actually think about it. So, and they're actually more inefficient each time that they add a lane. I'll explain why. So, like, when you think of the early automotive roads, right? You think of, you know, they're not trying to blast through the mountain. They're going around the mountain. You know, they're going around the hill. So, like, you know, when you think of those roads, they're a little closer to like what you would see in Japan. Where in Japan they don't fight the terrain; they kind of work with it instead. You know, that's it fits the philosophy. So that's how our roads were here too. And then we started off with the U.S. highway system. So we're like, okay, you know, we need to straighten out a few of those. You know, the most traveled ones, you know, they kind of became the official trail. And then we did it. So, you know, that was a pretty good upgrade when you think about it. Super twisty road that wasn't, you know, signed very well to U.S. highway system. A+, you know, not A+ from like a transportation standpoint, you know, like innovation, right? In that kind of sense. Not so much that we're ripping apart communities or like the environment or something, right? But, you know, it's like, yeah, from that side, you know, that's like a smart choice. And then from there we have a few decades go by, right? World War II, two, I think, pretty much just two, right? They get ideas from the Autobahn. Yeah, that's a weird way for me to cross the walk. Yeah, they get the ideas for the Autobahn. You know, the interstate system, the defense, highway, whatever. And that's another smart, not great for the environment. I mean, if we're just talking from an engineering standpoint, like, on making, you know, a road, then yeah, they did a good job with that too. U.S. highway system to an interstate now. They're not even going through the cities anymore. Now they're kind of going, in most cases, they're going around the city. They're almost kind of like separating, the highway from the city in a sense, or there's definitely a lot of bad stuff to it, but like in that sense, in a road capacity sense, it kind of does make sense the way they laid it out. Okay, that's that. So now we're like in the 50s or 60s, and they're still making a few of these, and they're still making a lot of these, opening new ones up, years and years after. But the thing is that now they're like, and people didn't want them at first, right? Everyone's complaining. But no, they're kind of standardized. Like usually they're like 3 lanes, 4 lanes, right? They all have like practically the same clover leaf design, or that's kind of considered the standard. So they all have a look. They're pretty predictable, and everything. But they have, it's standardized, right? But the thing here is that they started off with a minimum amount. Here's the most interesting thing. They started off with a minimum amount of lanes. So, we'll take 4 lanes, for example, or 3 or whatever. It doesn't even matter. So the point is that they have space. When you look at a freeway from above, it's not 4 lanes, it's 1. It's really one line to a certain width, right? Here's a great example. Okay, so technically, this part of the road here, you could probably fit 2 cars side by side if they were going really carefully along each other. What does everybody do? Everybody takes the racing line. So the racing line only works fine if you have the entire lane to yourself. If you cram 2 cars next to it, well, all of a sudden, now they've got to follow a very tight, non-natural line almost. And that's kind of how the roads were designed, a certain way. So like now they're trying to cram essentially the same, more lanes and more complication into like the same space. So all of a sudden, all their cars are slowed down because now they can't take, like they're cramming, they're pretty much scrunching in all the lines together. When in reality, what they should have done was actually just reduce the lanes. If you actually reduce the lanes, 4 lanes going around the curve, reduce from 4 down to 2, all of a sudden, you can make very long sweeping designs, right? So that's actually the irony. I used the Disneyland example one time. Well, I think about this a lot too. Disneyland example. Everyone wants to get into the ride, the Indian ride, or whatever ride it is. The kids are all excited. They've never done it before. They're short. They can't even see what's ahead. So they're running. They're getting tired and everything. You got the adults lagging behind, just like. So that's the same deal here, and then, essentially, that's why, like, taller cars, taller people, they kind of chill back more because they can see everything. But it's the same thing here with road design. It's the same exact effect. Same exact effect. So that's one example. Actually what would be really interesting would be to eliminate all the lanes on the road, just theoretically speaking, for a few weeks, you kind of see, here are 3 lanes. Do people end up following the 3 lane again, or do they adjust. I mean, they're not going to follow the exact same line, but I'm just saying, if we could like analyze the behavior, would they still follow the 3 lanes? They've been, or how long would it be until they kind of transition into a lesser amount? Because they're going to be slopping all over the place. So, it would still be interesting. How much space? How would they occupy the space? And how would them occupying the space change according to how much traffic there is? Like, late night, it might be 2 lanes, but like daytime, it might not be 3, it might even be 4 lanes. So that's kind of something interesting to think about. But yeah, I mean, like I do shorts, right? So I was saying, this video so far is about 20 minutes long, and literally that would have taken me like a minute on the car. So it's like insane for any family. It's actually insane to think families get moved out here. Essentially, you're locking your kids into car lifestyle, and the thing about cars is that they cost something. So because they cost something, we have to maintain them, right? And because we have to maintain them, there's like no actual fixed stability. Think about it. That's why a homeless person doesn't usually drive a car around. It's when you're at 0, you don't really get to afford a car. And see, that's a problem. That's why it's systemic here. Essentially, this here isn't just a road. It's a connection between where you live, how you socialize, and how you integrate into society. And essentially this right here, we're making it into, if you fall completely off the tree, it's nearly impossible for you to get back up. I mean, this person here walking, probably a dude, right? Ask them, how long have you been taking the bus? Because they've obviously taken the bus. And, there'll probably be some long-ass story, trying to find a car or something, right? Some kind of story like that. But, that's because, like, when you fall off the car and everything, that makes everything else difficult, too. Car, very unfortunately dependent on here in the US. And we didn't have streetcars before, so